Now we are going to process the information from post to create a word cloud. In this case, we are going to use the information that is in the files of post. You can see the structure. You see the timestamp. You see if there are attachments, if there's some media. You uploaded a video, an image, and you accompany those image with some kind of post. One of the things when I review this file is that not all the information has the same structure. It depends if you only write something to post, if you attach a link, or if you commented the link you attach, if you attach an image. The structure of the JSON varies depending on that. So it's important to note that, because the processing can be tricky, because it's not an uniform way to storage the content. In this case, I'm going to use also JSON, datetime, and pandas to process. And I'm going to do the same that in the location file. I'm going to load it in a variable. And let's see how this looks like. So yeah, it's a long file, so it takes a time. This is one of the things that each one of the files you will receive has 10,000 posts. So how many files do you receive? It depends on how often you post on Facebook and how old is your account. But each one will be up to 10,000 posts. So this is the information. Also, I post in Spanish, so I have accents that I have to deal with. There's also links and things that we need to somehow process, so I can use this way. One of the things is that I'm going to do some text processing using a library named Spacey, because NLTK, that is the most known library about this, has no a corpus in Spanish that is very known. So I had to use Spacey, that is pretty good for the process I'm going to do. What is the kind of data format that you have this? You have a list, and you have to process it like that. And let's explore some post. Basically, I want to see what is the data and what is the content. It has timestamp, attachment, and data. Let's see another. It has the same structure. I want to find one that changes to show you this. Yeah, for example, this one has timestamp, data, and title. So because of this, because of the changes, I have to use different approach for the data. I'm going to show you the kind of structures that I found during this exploration. It's harder to explore because it's too much information, so it's more about taking a sample and processing that sample to realize what is the structure. I have this library that I created. What I'm going to use in this moment, I'm going to use those two things. First, I'm going to remove emoticons, because in the word cloud, if I keep the emoticons, they appear like frequent words. So I need to remove them. And I also, this is a long list of emoticons. Actually, it's not the last one. And the other thing that I will do later with those emoticons is to use them to classify the sentiment of the post, but it will be in the next demonstration. By now only, I'm going to use this to replace the emoticons. It's the only thing I'm going to use in this moment, this library. So the next thing I need to do is to remove mentions, because mention also can appear as frequent words. And I also need to remove URLs. So I'm not going to explain the function. I'm just going to put it there. But basically, what I'm going to do is use a character that starts the text I want to remove. In case of mention is at, the at symbol. And I'm going to stop when I find a space or the post ends. So this is a function that basically finds a character I need to and remove from this character to another character that I define that the stop one. So in order to remove mentions, I'm going to use at character as the starting point to look for, and it will find for the bracket closing to stop searching. So it's going to start looking for at and this one. Let's see here in the data if I can show you an example of a mention. Let me see. Okay, use. Oops. Oh, sorry. The add. Let's see another. Yeah, this is a mention. So you find the add character and it finishes here. So the idea is to remove this one, all the mention. Yeah, that's the idea of that function. And the other thing I want to remove is URLs. So basically, what I will do is to use the same approach, finding the HTTP starting and finding the space after the HTTP. In case it's the final part of the post, so it will stop when the post ends. So it removes the URLs. So in the information, for example, these ones, this is the post, this is text, and this is the URL. The idea is to remove all this because I'm looking for words, so URLs are not useful here. Okay, these are the function I'm going to call. Then it comes the long part about processing. I'm going to put the whole function to process the data, and I'm going to explain it line by line. Okay, but you are going to see that lots of code appear in the screen, but I'm going to explain it. So this is the long function to process the post data. So how did I define this function? Because I have 10,000 posts in this file. I'm not want to process all them at the same time. So I will define an initial post and a final post, and an array of data that I'm going to process. So what I'm going to extract from here, because you can see that this information have lots of things. In my case, my interest is only extracted 3 things. The content of the post and the date when the post happened. That's basically the only 2 things that I want. The content of the post and the date when it was created. I have what I call a raw array because I want to keep the information without removing the accents. Remember that I told you that I need to remove the accents? Well, I want to keep also the information without removing them. So that's why I have 2 arrays. One with accents and one with them removed. So what I will do is to go from the beginning to the end of the desired place of the array, and I will take the data and create a dictionary with the data in that specific post. So I have a post as a dictionary here. The first thing that I'm going to extract from that dictionary is the timestamp column. So I will take timestamp and I'm going to transform it to human readable information and fill a variable with the date time. Next, I want to select, because I show you that the structure can change, so I can find different things. For example, if the name data is in the dictionary. So if the name data is in the dictionary, there's a way to process it. If the name attachment is found in the dictionary, there's another way to process it. And if I don't find attachment or I don't find data, I consider that the entry has no text information. An example is when you post an URL without any comment. You didn't comment anything, you only post the URL. That's an example of a post without content. So I consider them no post and I don't include them in the analysis. Okay, in the case that the dictionary has the data column, I take the dictionary inside data, and if there's data, because it could be empty also, so if there's data, I take the first position and look if the key post exists. In case that post exists, there's content in the post, so I will append this content, this is text, in the raw array and clean them to append it to the other array. So I take the post and replace the accent in the function I showed you before. I take the post and replace emoticons, and I filter, mention, and filter URL. Once I have done those filtering, I append the post to my array. And I append the date that I took here. I will also append it to the array of dates. In case I find attachments, so I take the dictionary. In attachment, I take the first position. I look for the data key in the dictionary. I take the first position in that one, and I will take the media key in this other dictionary. If you see, it's very different than the structure of the one before. And when I find this media, in this case is a post that had maybe an image or a video or something else. If there's media in the post, there are two ways to include the text. It could be a description or it could be a title. So I have to review if the media has a description or if the media has a title. If it has no either, I consider that has no post. For example, when you only post a picture without any kind of comment. So I save it without changing the description in the raw array. I do the same, replace accent, replace emoticons, replace mentions and URLs, and append in my array, and also the date of the post. If I find title, so I do the same one, but using the key title. It's basically the same processing. Replacing accent, emoticons, filter URLs, and mention, appending, and adding the date of the post. Okay, once all this has been done, I will create a data frame with the content of the array of dates and with the content of post that I get. So I will have a data frame with only 2 columns. So I create a dictionary and then I create a data frame with this one. I will also save, for my interest, a file with the raw content. So I will create also a dictionary with the dates and the raw content. I create also a data frame with the raw content. And I'm going to, this is for control purposes, I'm going to create a text that tell me I can select the post from 100 to 1000, for example, but I want to know in dates what does it mean. So I'm going to print this first date time, what it was, to the last one. The idea is to have the range of posts from this beginning to the end, and specifically show the dates included in those ones. Then I'm going to save the raw information in a CSV. In this case, I'm going to name the file with the number of posts I started and the one finished, so I can differentiate one process into another. And then I print the dates where the data happened. This is the explanation of that. This is a function. I will call it later. So after all those things, let's go into do one example of filling the data frame. I'm going to do a shorter example. Let's go from 0 to 200, for example. And let's see how data frame goes. So I'm going to run this. Okay, it seems that I forgot to run some code. I was calling a function unexistent. Okay, so this tells me that those one from 0 to 200 is data from the 1st of September of 2020 to the 27th of June of 2020. So this is the amount of posts that I have in this space of time. So I'm transforming these numbers to dates. So let's see the content. And basically, this is what I have. The day of the post and the text content. One of the things is that my list of emoticons is missing some of them, so I will find still some emoticons seen like this. And I will see this in right use of accents. For example, this one. If we return to the original data, you can see that the accents here are not properly shown in the raw data. So now I have proper accents shown here. Okay, so this is basically the information I have. Okay, so now that I already have the information of the post, I have the text. Now we are going to create a word cloud. It's what idea. So I'm going to import the libraries that are needed to do the word cloud. So I'm going to use matplotlib. I'm going to use word cloud and using stop words. Now I'm going to take Spacie, and specifically because most of my posts are in Spanish, so I need to load the stop words from Spanish, but I also post in English sometimes. So I'm going to import both corpus. I'm going to import Spanish corpus, the small one, and I'm also going to import the English corpus, the small one. I'm going to do both, especially in this case because I want to remove stop words in both languages, because stop words really affect when you are creating a word cloud. So my idea is to load both, also Spanish and English. In my case, because I post in both languages, you can use the language you wanted to. Later I can show you a little bit more about the Spacie. By now I'm just showing you how to do this. Okay, once I have the corpus, so I'm going to use the stop words in Spanish and the stop words in English. So the idea is to import both and create only one variable with all of them. If you want to know the content of the stop words for this case, we can print it, and there are lots of words. You see that Spanish and English. In this case, for the example, I need to have both. Okay, now I'm going to configure the plotting. So I go with ggplot, and then I'm going to create a function that creates the word cloud. I'm going to put the code and explain you line by line. So I'm going to use this array to first define the start of the information I'm going to process with array. In this case, it will be a data frame. What is the column that is going to be processed? In this case, is the column content. And I give a number to the graph because I'm going to compare two graphs. So I need to make that one graph don't override the other. When I mention column, I refer to this one. This column is what I'm going to process. So I'm going to use the column content, and the array is the portion of the data frame that is going to be processed. Okay, then this is going to create a word cloud, white as a background, using the stop words I already defined, and with the data that I extracted from column, okay? The data frame and taking the column that I defined, in this case, content. So I'm going to plot the graph with the ID I defined it, and I put a name on the graph. Basically, it's a function to create a word cloud. And now the idea is to create two different word clouds using this function. The first one will be used the post from 0 to 1400. It will be ID 100, and the other one will be from 7900 to 9300. And because this belongs to different dates, what I want to show you is how the words you use the most depend on the time, and they are not static, they change in time. So both of them are 1400 posts, but in different moments of the time. So I'm going to run this. So the first one is from September 1st to March 31 this year, and the other one is from January 25, 2019 to November 23, 2018. So this is the first thing that corresponds to 2020. You know that this is a pandemic time, so pandemia appears in this word cloud. This is a hashtag that I use, the era without humans, because all the videos that were appearing about animals returning to their places, animals wandering the cities. So I posted a lot of videos and photos about this, and use this hashtag about human era without humans. Also about quarantine, year, people. There are lots of words, and it's very specific because this period of time was during pandemic. So the words are very a reflection of what is happening at that time. And a year before, I was talking about people, I was talking about women, I was talking about men, I was talking about year, I was talking about country. This is an interesting hashtag I participate. It was 25 days of gratitude. And this is something that showed my interests and the things that I talk about. And this could show you how your interests or your behavior change with time. It also could give some insight about your mood or what are the things that are affecting you the most. Obviously, in this one, it's pandemic. It's obvious. But in other times, less stressful than this, those insights could be very useful for anyone. I hope you see this as a tool that you can apply to your own data and you enjoy this part of the demonstration.